The ATC Expo, held at the Anaheim Convention Center in Southern California in the greater Los Angeles area, has been held there since its inception as a result of its charter basically being to help fleet operators in the state of California comply with the more stringent environmental regulations that the state had imposed. However, in recent years, fleet operators have started to become more accustomed to electrification options for several reasons. One, the carbon neutrality narrative, which is very pervasive in society, not only in the United States but globally, as well as the total cost of ownership for fleet operators with electrified fleets is now becoming a more compelling option in order to maintain fleets. Not only the maintenance of fleets, but the cost of fueling the vehicles, the convenience of fueling the vehicles, the lower repair cost, and many other things make the electrification of fleets more attractive. So as a result, the ATC Expo has ballooned from what used to be kind of a closet convention meant to support fleet operators in the state of California to now a global convention with 500 exhibitors and attendees coming from all over the world. They said this year there was going to be 12,000 attendees. I'm not quite sure where they got that number from, but I can say it was very crowded. And every day, the crowds were kind of hard to navigate through the exhibit hall. There were multiple halls in sequence that were all linked together to make one very large exhibit hall for the 500 exhibitors, many of the exhibitors taking up very large booth spaces for extravagant demonstration areas. There was also a main stage area up on the second floor in order for keynote speakers to give presentations from. There was secondary stages down in the exhibit floor, and then many of the exhibitors also did press events at their booths as well. So I was tasked throughout Spec in order to do more sniping focused interviews while Kyle was doing the main walkthrough and discussing with some of the larger exhibitors, which are a little more common in out of spec space in order to do interviews with. But there was so much information available at this exhibit this year that I was brought along in order to bring some of those lesser known exhibitors to relief into interviews. Going through, one of the things I was curious about was whether or not the focus on hydrogen as a propulsion alternative was still going to be more or less at parity with electrification considerations. But that doesn't seem to be the case. At least this year, what I was finding as I was walking through the exhibit hall, anyone who was offering hydrogen services, typically their booth was only occupied by people who were there to staff the booth, and there weren't many attendees showing up to the booths of hydrogen companies in order to discuss things. However, the Alpitronic booth, the ChargePoint booth, the ChemPower booth, these booths were really swarmed with a ton of people just climbing all over them looking for opportunity to speak to some of the salespeople and get more information. Those were really where the beehive of activities were. And all the other electrification, there was many electrification vendors here exhibiting. So what I did as part of the Out of Spec Studio team in order to bring to relief, I first walked through the entire hall and kind of got a lay of the land, and also was fed a couple of locations that were likely going to have good interview prospects. And at the end of the day, I ended up with 5 interviews. Well, actually, one of them is a press event, but even still, Green Lane was not an interview with the staff of Green Lane. It was just a recording of the press event, but it's still very interesting. The other 4 is a company called Zeem Solutions, iCharging, Tritium, which we just heard not too long ago was not going to survive, but they are back with a vengeance, and they are here to stay, it seems. And lastly, Volterra, which provides many different things, which will be a very interesting interview to cover. So what I wanted to do is just reflect on my thoughts of the time at the ATC Expo. This is my first time attending. As a technologist, I've been to many different conventions, so it's not a area where I'm unfamiliar. And this one was very obviously major industry doing big business-to-business activities. Lots of people with deep pockets having conversations with each other. And freight in the United States is one of the backbones of our economy. And the concept of moving towards electrification or other forms of alternative propulsion is what this expo is all about. So the people who operate the freight and fleets are all ears for ways that they are able to either save money or improve the efficiency of their operations. And it was very interesting to be able to attend and participate in all the different events and conversations that I had with the vendors. So what I'm going to do now is I think we're going to release maybe one a day or one every other day, something to that effect, the interviews that I was able to capture with these kind of nuggets of vendors that are out there doing the good job of electrification. And most of them are principally focused on fleet electrification. And trust me, the people who are operating fleets, they are not interested in politics. They are not interested in the fickle, different stylistic opportunities for transport. They're interested in the total cost of ownership and the money it takes in order to operate their fleet and the efficiency that electrification can provide. And it's unambiguous coming away from the event that the answer is conclusive. Fleets are moving to electrification. There's no way this is not happening. This is avalanche which has already started to roll down the mountain, and no form of lack of federal funding or other type of obstruction is going to stop it, because the numbers are just too compelling. And that's really the main narrative takeaway that I was able to glean from the participation throughout these events. So I hope you enjoy these interviews. They'll be relatively short, right around 10 minutes or less, and each one of the vendors is able to provide a unique perspective on the products and services that they offer. Thank you very much for watching.